Hey, what's going on? This is Tony Taylor. Welcome to Leaders Lead Podcast. I'm super excited with this podcast. What we're doing is we're sitting down and we're talking to some amazing leaders across the country. We're learning cool things about them. We're learning where did they get their leadership style from? How did they adapt that leadership style? What are they changing? What are some things that they need to work on? I want you to tune in to listen to Leaders Lead Podcast. Every single week, we're going to have new content for you. We're streaming on all the major platforms, so look out for Leaders Lead Podcast. Hey, welcome to Leaders Lead the Podcast. We got my brother Haram. What's up, my brother?
What's happening, brother?
We got a special guest today.
It's good. Glad you're back. We were doing all these backstage trials, so it was good for everybody.
I'm sorry.
So
I'm sorry. I feel like I dropped the ball a little bit.
No, and, we want to thank Jennifer right here. So welcome, Jennifer.
Hi.
So let me introduce Jennifer. Jennifer Tracy is a best-selling author, national speaker, life coach, and a mental health advocate, helping to find the other side of grief and suicide and PTSD. Jennifer currently lives in Bratton, Florida. She's been a co-author and writing books for quite a few people. You've been supporting combat PTSD. You've been dealing with women in crisis. You've been advocating for something that's more or less your purpose, your why. You also been collaborating with Professor Mike, that was out here just a little while ago, and
Professor Mike
and Doc Shauna Springer, who is a person that I really admire. She wrote a book on the warrior. But we're grateful to have you, Jennifer. So Jennifer, please tell us a little bit about yourself. One more thing, we know you're a transformable speaker. You do a lot of prevention work. You work with you represent the victim for representatives for the state of Colorado. Tell us, unpack what you do, and let's get this ball going and let's get this party started. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh. So you know what? The gist of it, guys, is this. Sadly for me, the day that my husband and daughter were killed, I stepped into an arena, one that I never wanted to be in. I stepped out onto a platform that I never thought I would survive in. And I had to learn quite a few things. And so one of the first things that I did was I learned that when you're flying on an airplane, I learned something really powerful from a flight attendant. Mm-hmm. They tell you that in the event that you're flying with a child and the oxygen mask drop down, they tell you to put that oxygen mask on. Who first?
On yourself.
On yourself. But I can tell you this right now. 17 years ago, I had a pivotal moment, and I realized if I wanted to save my children, who was I going to have to save first? I knew that I would have to put that oxygen mask on myself first. And as a parent, our first inclination is to want to reach over and save our children.
Right. As
our parent, as someone who's out there leading, we are always putting others ahead of ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
When that moment hit for me, I knew if I wanted to save my children, I would have to fight for myself equally. And that is exactly what I did. So those 5-6 years, you guys, that was me growing. I didn't speak. I could barely even talk about Brian and Brittany for 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
So I commend people who go out and write books right away or who start nonprofits, but I didn't. I truly went into this I have to heal mode first. And so that's the first thing for me, was that I knew I had to take care of myself.
Wow. So you're incredibly brave. And thank you for being here to share your story. I'm pretty sure out of all of the listeners and viewers, I'm 100% certain that they're going to be blessed from from hearing your story today. So thank you so much for sharing space with us. I really mean it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited. And we have something special tonight. Last minute, I reached out and I said, Doc Springer, are you free? Come join us. And so guess what?
You get to introduce her now.
There she is. Yes.
So you do welcome, Doc. So Jennifer, you brought your ride and die buddy here.
Yeah.
So why don't you do us the honors of introducing Doc Springer, as I call him.
Put me on the spot, but here I go. Okay, Johnny on the spot. All right.
There you go. That's
Jennifer
how we do
on the
things.
Spot. That's how we roll.
What I love so much about you is how brave you are and how educated you are. And yet you realized right away that if you wanted to enter into that place where our deepest darkness and our lies hide, that you were going to have to step back in and listen. And I've just watched you just even over a year still continue to do that. So Doc Springer, you have so many accolades that I can't list them. But what I love most is that you lead with your heart and you've listened and your insights are incredible. And I'm just so excited to be alongside with you, really moving those insights forward. So Warrior is jam-packed with life-saving insights. So congrats on second edition. So proud of you on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Like that is just thank you, Jennifer. I mean, you are so brave as well. And it's your courage that really I responded to when you first, when we first were put together by our mutual friend, Andrew.
True.
And
Yeah.
I've got both of our books behind me here. And, I really believe in the value, the tremendous wisdom that comes from lived experience. When you walk through the valley and you learn and you grow from what you deal with in that valley and what you have to confront and reckon with, you can come away with powerful growth and learning. And that's what I've seen you do, not just once, but as a repeated part of who you are. And so all the insights that you've packed into your book that we get to kind of bring forward together, it's just a really exciting time. So thank you for that intro. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Just thank you guys for doing this. And like I said, Tony, I've only seen several of your, videos, but I'm just like, I just want to reach in and grab some of that energy. I'm like, give me some of that Tony energy. Because I like to say that I am not human before I've had coffee. And that is so true. Like,
trust me, I appreciate you saying that. If you're talking about the one of the last ones, I'm like literally running out of the door, chugging a big thing of coffee and putting it on my bike. The bottle where you're supposed to put water is all coffee. But yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I love making videos. My whole thought process is to inspire people, inspire those that inspire those that need a little bit of encouraging. And it seems like we're on the same path, man. I love this. You got your partner in crime. I got my partner in crime, and we're going to do some good work today. I really, oh man, I'm getting chills. We got two authors, right? You guys support each other. I thought usually authors are fighting, like everybody's like fighting for the bestseller. Like what about that relationship that's different from what you guys got going on versus most authors? Because I've seen it. I've talked to them and they're like, you don't want to get that book, and I'm like, what?
Wow, yeah, that does happen sometimes, but no, not with us. Jennifer has been from day one just a team player, and like, how can we, support the best of what we bring forward together? She's been a critical friend and resource to me in bringing forward my new edition, and just has tons of helpful ideas on how to get work out there, as well as her own, insights. And I don't know, just we in our friendship and our collaboration, we don't compete with each other. We both respect each other.
Yeah.
And we value what the other person brings. And so it's been a great blessing to have a friend like that.
I think one of the things that does make us unique is that we have some crossovers on our work. And if you didn't know it, you would think that we maybe plagiarized each other because we both came to some very solid insights. And like I say scars that people can't see, and she says, like,
I don't know.
oh, like it's like a
She's like, which quote? I got so many great ones.
you know,
I
like
have so many great ones.
pain,
No.
boxes in the gut, like we came to these same conclusions. So if you read her book and she talks about things, it's like, and then you read mine, and like we would say the same things but in different language. And so I think that like I truly look at her and say, oh my gosh, she brings things to this that I could never speak into. And so like it's so easy for me to give that to her. And then I think she recognizes like, wow, Jennifer brings stuff into this that like she could never speak into. And so I just feel like we feel like we're partners instead of like trying to one up each other. And I don't know why. But
it's called ride or die. It's your ride and die buddy. That's how it is. Somebody.
I know. I've never found anyone like Doc. She taught me this thing about trust and how I've got her book right here behind me, her first book, and it's called Marriage for Equals, which I'm not like necessarily promoting, but in it,
it's all good.
I'm
Canada anymore, and I'm so glad because I like to rewrite the whole thing. But
the thing is, though, there is sound wisdom in there, and one of the things that she kind of talks about is like having a fight with someone and how that builds trust. And like her and I over this last year have been tested during COVID of like working on platforms and all of these things. And like, you know what? It builds trust. So again, like, I think that's one of the reasons why we are here, you know, in this moment is because we've built trust.
Yeah, we've earned.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Doc.
No, I was going to echo that a little bit and just say, you know, that we've had some memorable conversations, you know, in setting up this collaboration where we've talked about we're going to have fights. It's going to happen. And like where she's like, she'll call me up. I remember one memorable day. She's like, okay, Doc, I need to have a good fight with you.
Ooh,
and I'm like,
I love
all right, let's do it.
I said, I'm ready for my first fight, Doc. And she's like, okay.
I'm like, let's get on. Let's have it. And so like, I think if you feel secure in the relationship and you feel like you respect each other, then you can navigate conflict in a respectful way that builds trust. In a sort of the warrior circle, like it's all theoretical. Trust, it's all theoretical until the first firefight, right? That's when you learn who you can trust is in the firefight. And so Jennifer and I in our sort of way have gone through, oh, hey, Tony, have gone through plenty of challenges and we've been tested, like she says. And that has built a deeper trust that neither one of us is going to cut and run or be about ego. We're doing something that is a bigger mission here that's bigger than both of us. So there isn't room for ego. If it needs to improve, it needs to improve. And I think that's another thing that's really unique about us and how we both work.
Wow. I love that. Ego. We could learn a lot from them around. We got to write a book and we got to help each other when we write it. We're slipping, bro.
No, we're not. You know, what really captivates me about
y'all see, he's a serious one. No, we're not.
It's a serious thing. You know, when I met Doc in our first podcast during COVID, I learned a lot. She sent me this book and I started understanding the language of PTSD and everything. And then connecting with Jennifer, then connecting with Mike, and then, you know, we decided to do something different, right? So we were unpacking all these thoughts and putting it out there in a platform. We were saying there's plenty of success for everyone. Everybody's too busy to want to one up on each other. But, you know, stats don't lie, comments don't lie. Even when your haters say something, there's some truth behind it. So you have to have some thick skin to take that constructive criticism, to look at that and reinvent yourself. But here we are today with a powerful, you know, professional women, you and myself, you know, we're just hanging out and we're doing something that it's going to change the direction of how we connect in LinkedIn, where we've all started by viewing each other's profiles, liking each other's posts, sharing each other's posts. Now we're utilizing the power of live broadcasting, LinkedIn Live, to say, hey, this is what you get when you vet each other out and you collaborate, and magical things happen. So ladies and Tony, thank you. Pretty much.
This is magic. This is magic. I'm truly inspired. I'm truly inspired by you two. And right now, like what I get from, because I tell people all the time, if you have a relationship with somebody and they don't piss you off sometimes, right? Then you're not really trying hard in that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people, yeah.
Trying hard not to, right?
Yeah. So,
Right.
so it's like, yeah, you're not going to argue. You're not pissed off by them. That's what happens one day when somebody just ghosts another person. Seriously, I feel like that's what happens. One day they're just like, oh yeah, it is perfect. Freaking, I'm out of here. But I love y'all's friendship, and that's some heavy stuff. I yearn for that type of friendship. You got to step your game up, Haram.
Hey, well, we'll step it up. This is what
be like them.
No.
Yeah.
To you. What more do you want?
Right, I know.
No, it's more or less that it goes back to the basics, right? We've become Zoom babies now. We're LinkedIn Live babies now. People want to see exactly what we're doing about. So people are going through Facebook Live, IG Live, Instagram, and everything else. But here it is. With the core of individuals that we have, everybody has a professional skill set, and they've had a story to bring to the table, and everybody was able to bring something that can leverage somebody else's talents in this platform, that allows people in this platform from a professional standpoint to view themselves and then gut check themselves. So I'm a professional. Why am I not commingling with other professionals? Why am I not leveling up with people like Doc and Jennifer, and with you, Tony? Level up. Put your money where your mouth is. Get some skin in the game. Let's talk about it, right? We go up. Correct?
Yeah.
So
no,
that's
I agree.
what I love about it.
I agree. So with your story, Jennifer, I was looking at a couple posts that you had did before, and it was one of those moments I was looking at it, and I kind of had a moment where I was just like, man, like reading what you said about your daughter and about your son. And it was just one of those moments where I'm just like, damn, I don't know like how I would be able to pull out of that. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, what do you think, like, what's the catalyst to you coming to a point where you're able to do stuff like this? Because I know that it's hard and it probably doesn't get any easier. Like what made you come out of it?
So, I mean, that's actually a really cool setup question for me, because as I was sharing with you, I didn't do anything but really focus on my own mental health and my girls' mental health for about 5 or 6 years. Like, I was at school with the kids. I was at all their functions. I made sure we were all in therapy. The girls were so young that we did art therapy. Life was very much about like healing those first 5 or 6 years. But then when I stepped on the stage the first time and shared my story, like I almost puked. Oh. I almost got sick. And I realized, oh my gosh, like this is a pain. And so when I used to speak, I used to say, when they knocked on the door to tell me that my husband and daughter had been killed, I remember getting this really sick feeling in my stomach, quite like the feeling I'm getting right now. That's what I used to say. Mm-hmm. But it's been 17 years.
Wow.
And I can get on a stage now and speak in front of thousands of people. And I've had to do what our warriors and our first responders had to do. And that is, I know how to wrap that up and put it somewhere and stand in my center and talk about what I need to talk about. And when I'm done, I give myself permission when I'm back in the car, or I'm back at home, or I'm with Brittany's bear to melt down then. And so that's why I understand how hard that is to wrap something like that up, why I'm so passionate about working with this particular niche is because I can't imagine what it's like to show up crash scene after crash scene after crash scene and seeing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different people, or being in combat and seeing hundreds of people you love, right? Like that's a lot to wrap up for me. And it's that ongoing trauma that people don't recognize. And I only realized it when a second hit of trauma hit my life and I got divorced. And then a third hit of trauma hit my life and I had traumatic brain surgery. And then a fourth hit and I was working my way off disability back into the workforce. And it was then at the fourth hit that my PTSD was at its worst and I started failing my children miserably. And that's when I said, you know what? I am this car with check engine lights driving around, and maybe my daughters are better off without me. And I realized I had everything to lose, my career, my books, my children, all of that. And I realized how hard it is in that moment to go get help. And that's why the work that Doc Springer and I are doing, like, that's why we're so passionate about it, because there's an area out there right now where people first don't realize that their check engine lights are on, right? They're used to it. But then there's nowhere for them to go. They're like, they know. They have a very real fear that if they walk into the doctor and say, I'm not sleeping at night and I'm full of rage, or I'm having thoughts of suicide, like everything they've worked hard for can be gone. And so it was at my fourth hit. It was at my fourth battle that I realized, oh my gosh, how much I have to lose. So, I mean, you ask me, how did I pull myself out of the first one? It's because I had already been in the psychiatric unit, Tony. My battle with suicidal ideation came 3 years before Brian and Brittany were killed. When I was in the psychiatric unit, I realized that I did not love myself, that I was addicted to being perfect. And guess what? When you walk out of a psychiatric unit, you can throw being perfect out the door. So I had to walk back into my community very imperfect, right? And so I had already started that process of discovery of how does Jennifer learn to reconcile all this? And then Brian and Brittany were killed.
Wow.
And so you asked me, how did I know? Oh, because I had already had therapists who said, Jennifer, these are red flags. Jennifer, pay attention to this. Jennifer, make sure you sleep. I personally feel like God prepared me for the worst day of my life.
Wow.
So that's why I wrote my book. Because it's a lot to unpack, right?
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Someone asks me, I can't say, well, it's one thing. It's because that one thing led to this thing that led to another.
No, it sounds like a combination of a lot. It sounds like you were very steady on trying to figure out what it was that was going on with you. Doc, what is your take on that as far as, from your perspective clinically?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that really is jumping out at me right now relates to a conversation I had yesterday with a veteran that's really relevant to what Jennifer just shared, that I think is a very common pattern that needs to be expressed and articulated, which is that when one thing starts to break down in your life, often it causes a ripple effect that brings a cascade of other negative effects. So, for example, when you start to struggle with depression or a mental health challenge, often your marriage becomes seriously strained and then can fall apart and dissolve. And then what happens is you enter this high stakes time where if you say you have children, that you want to retain custody of those kids, then that becomes a primal fear for you, that you will lose access to the kids that you love, that you're so attached to, that you love more than life itself. That is a huge risk factor for so many of the people that I walk with and serve, is being alienated and separated from their kids during a divorce. So it's not that people, Jennifer and I have talked about this, it's not that people are not brave enough to seek help. They're actually doing a different calculation, which is the calculation of, if I go to seek help and I'm in the middle of this custody battle, will that be used against me? Because the primal fear is losing access to those kids that you love. So it becomes this whole cascade effect. And what Jennifer and I really wanted to create, the Master Guide for Mental Wellness, is a confidential, truly safe way for people to gain insights and strategies and solutions when they're in that dark place that will help them to grow despite the adversity they find themselves in. Because there's a positive cascade that is also relevant to what Jennifer just shared that can happen when that happens. And so she is also an example, not just of the negative pileup of things, but also of growing stronger through adversity and through what she has learned at each step of her journey, starting with checking herself in, during her time of suicidal crisis. She has gained the skills and the insights to be able to weather stresses that would break most people. So both I think are true, and that's what kind of jumps out to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that's why you see us like out there really trying to change this narrative. Like you will see us both say, like, you guys don't need more on how to be resilient. Like I'm looking at two incredibly resilient men right now. So you don't need us to help you be more resilient. But if you're struggling with depression or post-traumatic stress, what you need,
right here.
If that's the arena you're in, you need someone to step into that arena with you and say, I know how to teach you how to run around that lap. Would you like me to show you? And if you would, like Master Guide to Mental Wellness, I can guarantee you is going to teach you how to do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I gotta throw something in there. Look, to your point, Jennifer and Doc, right? I've learned quite a few things this past year from both of you, especially myself. And before I met Tony, I can tell you my story. Suffering from anxiety, depression. We're starting from PTSD from scratch, from we're talking about, a lot of people don't understand there's different forms of PTSD that triggers people. It doesn't have to be combat. It could be domestic, it could be child. And that what happens, it elevates, it platforms, it elevates, you tolerate, you become resilient. And then all of a sudden, another traumatic situation. Then you get to an adulthood, you kind of check out and you block things out. Then my scenario, you join the Marine Corps, you start seeing stuff. And then later on in life, when things get a little bit settled, everything starts coming back. And then you have relationship issues. You have personal issues. You doubt yourself. And then you doubt yourself with communication skills. And then when people view you, they go like, there's something wrong with you. Is everything okay? And then you're self-conscious. So I get what you're saying. That's why we're unpacking that for people to understand. It's okay to say that you got issues versus I'm good. Right, Doc? Veterans would tell you, I'm good.
All the time.
I'm good. So it's a red flag. So that's why I wanted to put that.
I recently had this thing, and like, I wish there was a way, and maybe Doc Springer, like maybe you can help me really come up with like something that you and I get to say around this, okay?
Okay.
Because my brother, Sergeant Moore, lost his battle last year in the middle of COVID with PTSD. So in the midst of Doc Springer and I working on a project that could have saved his life, I lost my brother. And it's COVID. And my grandma passed away. And like, I didn't get to go to either funeral because it's COVID.
Right.
And so I've been in my house, right? Working, doing all this stuff. And I'm on an airplane, you guys, like a month ago, flying out to Colorado. And I have a PTSD trigger. And I'm sitting on a plane and like, I start sobbing. Now, here's the thing. Like, here's my aha moment. And this, like, I've already talked with her about this. If you're an EMT or a firefighter or a police officer or combat veteran, you cannot show up to a scene and have a PTSD trigger breakdown and it'd be okay.
Yeah.
Like in that moment, I can't look at you and say, oh, it's okay for you to break down. Like no one wants someone to like put an IV in their arm when they're having a PTSD trigger breaking down, right?
Right.
What we're actually saying is like, if that's how you're feeling, it's okay to do whatever you need to do, whether that's take 2 weeks off of work or go see a therapist or whatever you need to do to address that. That's okay.
Yeah.
But here I am sitting on an airplane and I'm sobbing, right? And I do this thing where I go into myself and I'm like, why am I upset? And I realized, okay, I don't want the stewardess to be upset or like feel like she needs to come over and fix me. I also realized I didn't want pity. I didn't want her to pity me. But I recognized like I was not going to be able to control my sobbing. Which, by the way, up until COVID, guys, I've worked really hard to get to the point where I was at. So for me to be back in a vulnerable place where I'm on an airplane sobbing, was really uncomfortable for me. Okay. And so I did something. And like, that's where I was saying, we've got to come up with like, what this is called. Like, it's like taking your power.
I have an idea. Yeah.
And so I stood up and I said to the stewardess, I said, I need to let you know that like, I'm actually okay. I need for you, if you can, to give me some space. I'm probably going to sit here for the 2-hour flight and cry. Could you just let me sit here like I'm okay? And she's like, thank you so much. And so you see the difference between just sitting there feeling shame and bawling my eyes out and being, upset that I'm sobbing.
Yeah.
Versus like I was able to recognize what I needed, but I still didn't like the fact that I was sitting there crying on an airplane.
Right.
Right. So
what you did there, I would say is, we have this concept of people containing and creating safe space for us, right? The people that we love and trust can create that safe space for us to feel whatever we feel, so that the people that are in our tribe are those we take our emotional armor off with. What happens when you're so raw like that the armor's off before you even know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a choice. You could sit there and feel miserable and ashamed, right? Like you're out of control and people are worried about you. And what you actually did was truly empowered. What you did, and this is the revolutionary concept, I think, is that if you understand your own process and you have a strong identity and you know who you are, you can hold that center even when you're in grief. And you can create a safe space for yourself to grieve, no matter where you are.
Mm-hmm.
So by talking to the flight attendant and saying, this is what's going on with me. I'm actually okay. You don't need to worry about me. And I'm just going to sit here and be in grief.
Yeah.
You created for yourself that safe space. And that's what I know you talk about. We've talked about, trauma takes away your power, how important it is to get your power back. But that's how you do it, Jennifer, is I've seen you do that and say, I accept myself and I'm not going to sit in shame. I'm going to sit in grief. And that's honorable. Grief is love. I'm going to sit in this grief until I'm ready to move to the next thing. And you don't need to worry about me. And so we want people to be able to create that healing and those opportunities to grieve and move through it for themselves.
I was just going to say, I love this conversation, especially Jennifer, you were talking about like first responders and, the folks in the military, and me being a former Marine, and I'm pretty sure Haram can contest to this, and also working as a firefighter. I saw people grieving. I saw people hurting. I saw people like getting to the point where they were broken, but it was not okay for us to talk about it. And the people that did talk about it, you would notice that they would almost disappear because they weren't looked at as strong enough. You will start hearing whispers, oh my God, he's depressed. Oh, is he going to be able to help me in the fire in the Marine Corps? Oh my God, he's depressed. Is he or she going to be able to help me in a firefight? So I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. I'm glad that Haram, when you were talking, I'm glad he raised his hand, because what that's going to do is all the people that are watching this right now, all the veterans, all the people that are currently in the military, currently first responders that are watching this, they're going to be able to raise their hand, just like Haram raised her hand, just like you, Jennifer. So I want to tell you to thank you for talking about this. Just us talking about it is, for me, is probably cathartic to a lot of people. So thank you, Doc, for you being an amazing support. This is really good. A lot of people, I feel like, are going to take some value away from this.
You know, Tony, here's the thing, right? When we put ourselves out there, is that we only have one life to live, right? And we live every day, but you die once. Jennifer can relate to that. And then in that moment, that significant impact comes into you. You have that aha moment. You have a moment of mourning. You have a moment of resentment. You have a moment of anger. And then what happens is people don't understand your flight. And then they tell you it's okay. Well, you don't know what I'm feeling. How can you say it's okay? What makes it okay for you to say it's okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is when we put this out here in this broadcast for people, it becomes an awkward conversation because it triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it triggers, then they have to look inside themselves and say, am I having that issue? Are they talking about me? Doc can relate to that. I'm sure with a lot of veterans, they say, hey, I'm so strong. I've been in 5, 6 deployments. I've seen everything. I've pulled people out. But at the end of the day, you could only be in the military so long, but you have the memories and these invisible injuries that Doc has been diagnosing for quite some time. And yourself, Jennifer, that's been witnessing, and you have to live with these demons, and people don't understand that those are the type of characteristics that build you to be the strong individual who you are. People don't understand your story until they hear it and they think, oh, we knew you can do it. We knew you could always do it, but they don't know how you did it. What do you think, Doc?
I mean, I think when we walk with our demons in the right way, we build strength, right? When we give them credence and we listen to them and we let them tell us who we are, we lose power.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the strongest and most common messages of our demons is really like the domestic violence abuser that tries to separate us from the love of our tribe. They try to separate us from the people who can speak to that lie. And they try to say, well, you're strong, so you don't need help, or, people will think differently of you, or they will shame you. Not if you do it in a way that doesn't communicate shame. So a lot of times, people will start to whisper and wonder if you're holding shame and expressing that and how you walk through that, versus what Jennifer did. Her example on the plane is that she spoke into what was going on without shame by saying, I'm okay. I'm just having, some grief right now. You don't need to worry about me. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to feel some grief. And that's what it looks like and sounds like, to give yourself that room to feel what you feel and be fully human without expressing shame. That's where I think the difference is.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is this: for the gentlemen, the men, right, the alpha males,
Mm-hmm.
we know women are very networky. They communicate. They can express themselves. They multitask. I was raised by women and everything. Communicate. That's the love language. When we're talking about alpha males, when we're talking about males that are, hey, I'm good. I just came from the gym. All right, Doc, this is what I got on A, B, C, D, E. What do you think?
Yep. So as it happens, I just came back from a retreat of about 25 or 30 Marines from 2-3 and 2-7. And we were out on this live ammunition range, and a lot of tears were shed. A lot of tears were shed, because when you create real trust, the trust that really matters, you get beyond all of that false front stuff about wearing your armor, wearing your emotional armor. We had 100 dog tags that weekend from warriors who were killed in combat. And they've lost so many more to suicide, that we had those deaths to grief. We had the ashes of somebody they had lost this year to suicide to grief. And tears were shed, and people held each other without fear and without shame. And so I think part of it is like creating that culture of openness. And the best leaders I know, the best Marine leaders I know, are the ones that clear space. They're like sappers. They're like emotional sappers, where they start to blow up people's resistance to talking about what really goes on when they're really suffering. and then they create that space for everybody else to do the same. And so that's what those leaders have done in that circle. And I've been going for many years and seen so much incredible healing and authenticity and courage and tears and grief and all of it. And it's all done in love and trust. And it's an incredibly healing weekend.
Wow. So do you go just to those units, or is it like Marine Corps wide?
No, this is organic. This is not something that the Marine Corps sponsors or has any part in. This is their master sergeant who started hosting these reunions on his family property for his brothers. And then he was in 2 different units at different times. And then it's grown and grown. We've done it in California and in Texas. And the guys, they just open their home and the brothers fly in. Everybody self-funds. There's no funding for this. It's just very organic, and it's led for them, by them. I don't lead them. I facilitate and guide. Like Jennifer and I are going to be doing with our master guide. I just do it in person during those weekends.
Sounds like leadership to me. Go ahead, brother.
So I have a question for you, ladies. Well, this is what Tony and myself, and we have another guy that's in that was in Fallujah, and the 20th year of 9/11 is coming up, right? And so here's a lot of dynamics that's happened. We go back to the situation with Jennifer losing her family members. We're going back to you facilitating. Both ladies are facilitating, but you're engaging with a lot of different people. And here we are coming to the 20th year of 9/11, where you already know, Doc, there's going to be a significant pullout. Jennifer, you already know that based on 22, what happened to your brother and everything else. Understand this, we're doing something that's going to be pretty much phenomenal. We're putting it out there now. We're calling ourselves out to be able to collaborate and say, hey, 20 years of 9/11, 20 years of people, veterans getting killed, 20 years of veterans taking their lives. Where does that bring us back to? How do we communicate and refacilitate the strengths that we have to help minimize what's been going on for so long? And we would like for you ladies to participate sometime in the future, but I'd like to know what is both of your thoughts and reflection in those 20 years. Where were you at in 9/11, and where are you at now when you see it, when it's coming to 20 years? We'll start with you, Jennifer.
Well, I think one of the things I think about, 20 years ago, I was just coming out of the psychiatric unit. I had 3 kids under the age of 5. And then our country's going through a crisis, right? And then shortly right after that, my husband and daughter were killed. So there's a time period for me where, like, I'm almost not even paying attention at all to the rest of the world. I truly am, like, triaging my own self and my children. They died in 2004. So it's been 17 years. Now, here's the thing. Most people don't realize my top emotion that I struggle with. If you had to guess, what would you think my top emotion that I struggle with is?
Being happy.
It's not. You know me. You know me well enough now.
I would probably say back then that I would probably be on the side of her end, probably being happy. I mean, I know it would be hard for me going through that.
It's not. My top emotion, you guys, is anger.
Wow, triggers, angers, right?
Oh, no. Here's the deal. Michaela, who survived the crash, was left permanently deaf in her right ear, permanently paralyzed on the right side of her face. She has a gold weight inside of her eyelid just so that her eye will close. I posted a photo inside
and Michaela's your daughter, right?
That survived. Okay. Yeah. I posted a photo of her, of the 3 of us inside of LinkedIn, and someone said they made fun of her smile in LinkedIn. And I graciously said to them, you probably don't know that my daughter was in a car crash and was paralyzed on the right side of her face and deaf. And they said, I'm so sorry, because that's what I do is I come in and I teach in those moments. Okay. But if you don't think for a minute when that person made fun of my daughter's smile, that I didn't feel angry or rage, then you don't know the warrior spirit, right? Because that's my baby and you're making fun of her smile, right? But here's the thing, you guys, the corner where Brian and Brittany were killed, I went out and I stood on that corner and I said, this corner was meant to destroy me. This corner was meant to rip and tear apart, and there was blood and all of this stuff there, right? And do you know what I've realized? I've realized that was so shitty, that corner, but shit can grow some amazing flowers.
Yes.
And 17 years later, when I go and I stand on that corner, there are valleys. There are valleys and valleys of flowers that have been grown out of that shit pile. And that is my power. You can ask Doc Springer, when I get angry, I sit with it and I ask myself, why am I angry? What do I need to do to convert this pain into something that's useful? And that's my PowerPoint with men. You bring me that and I'm going to ask you, what's underneath it? What is that real pain? What do you really need to do? And when you figure that out and you sit with it long enough and then you go do it, that's powerful. And like, that's the difference. Like, that's my 17-year journey here, guys, is looking at that corner and saying, that's my top emotion. I look at a daughter every single day, you guys. Identical twin, identical. Do you know what it's like to look at the very thing that's gone every day?
Can't even imagine.
Wrap that up, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I do. I wrap it up and I put it where she is, and she's safe. My beautiful Brittany is safe. She's happy. And it took me a long time to give myself permission to be really happy. To write that final chapter in my book, it's called Home, and to share it with Doc Springer. And I sent that to her and I said, this is how I feel right now. And she was like, wow. And I was like, I'm here. Like, I'm actually alive. I'm married to the love of my life. I get to sing karaoke. Like, I'm home. I'm like, does that sound weird that I want to write that? She's like, no. Like, so for me to come all this full circle, yeah. And to have her by my side supporting me and seeing the work that she's doing out there in that front, like, that's why we're a power team, because she knows, I know she knows the voice of those demons just as much.
Thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate it. Doc, you got the floor.
So make no mistake that Jennifer and I are these soft, nurturing, right? That we're going to be like, co-sign all your bullshit, like, make no mistake.
No, I don't think nobody see that. We see the strength.
Am I allowed to curse a little just for a second on this podcast?
Yeah,
I'll buy the first round. I'll buy the first round.
Absolutely. It's almost a fucking requirement. My mom would like me saying that. But.
I won't share this one with my family, but I speak Marine now. And so as a result, I understand that get up and fight, motherfucker, means I will not work harder than you work. We're
gonna name that the for this episode. It's gonna be "Get Up and Fight, Motherfucker." All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Go for it, because Marines will know that's the love language.
Yeah,
it means
that is the love language.
One who I love and will not let fail. I started smiling
as soon as you said it.
And Jennifer, my husband said something really interesting when we started teaming up and talking about doing the master guide. He saw a picture of her and he said, that's interesting. You guys kind of look similar. And we don't really look similar. So I was like, what do you mean? Like, we don't exactly look similar on the face of it. He said, there's something in the eyes where you guys have both been through trial and tribulation and struggle and like come through with this kind of like strength that leads you through what you do. So 20 years ago, I was probably, I don't know, on one of my South American trips in between years of school. It was probably right around the time I was finishing up at Harvard, kind of headed off to grad school. And I had spent one of those summers on the Amazon River with the Shipibo Indians. And at night we hunted alligators. And so I literally went out with these
What a life.
warriors, and there's a harpoon with a rope attached to it, and you shine a bright light over the water, and it makes them freeze, and it makes their eyes glow orange across the Amazon River.
Wow.
And
You're
you
a
can
gator
cut the
killer, huh?
engine.
You're a
What's
gator
that?
killer. You're a gator killer. Now I'm calling you Doc the Gator Killer Springer.
Oh, Mike got his name. You just got your name, Dr. Gator
Oh,
Killer.
no.
Oh.
But anyway, I mean, you have to eat, right? And they are pretty good, So, um, so so you throw the harpoon, it's attached to a rope, and you bring them in and you cut their head off, and they're still really dangerous because they have this really strong reflex that lasts for hours after they're killed.
Wow.
And so the way to tell if they're actually dead or if the head can still bite you is to stick a thumb in their eyeball, and if their mouth opens, they're still dangerous, right? So my life and my experiences didn't really make a lot of sense to me until I started working with warfighters. And then one time a Marine said, "Oh, a dead check." And my whole life kind of fell in, and I was like, "Oh, that's why I feel at home with you guys."
Yes.
Because I am comfortable with aggression, but I think having mastery of yourself is something that we can achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Not by denying that we have aggressive impulses, or, I just spent a week at the house of one of my favorite Marines, Carl Marlantis, who's like a friend and a mentor and a brilliant Marine and writer. And it was just so amazing. He talks about how we're not the dominant species in the earth because we're the kindest species in the earth. Like, we are not kind by nature, and we learn to navigate life based on the people that we love and trust and how we lead ourselves. So I think, relevant to your podcast, leaders lead themselves first. And once they learn how to do that, only when they learn how to do that can they lead others. And so
Only.
Jennifer and I, being women, exist outside of the military. We're not like going to get into a contest about rank. We kind of come around on the side, and we just have our own way of walking with people, with first responders and warriors. And I think that they recognize our version of warriorship, and we honor theirs, and we hold that very sacred, both of us. So yeah.
You all are doing some amazing work, and the reason that I asked you that question earlier is because I wish there were more of you. I wish there were more of you talking to our brothers and sisters in the military, because I mean sometimes you don't know what to do with those emotions. But I would be looking for Doc Springer and Jennifer Tracy, trying to tell you my story, because it's, oh my God, just getting that out, getting that release feels so good. I'll never forget. I talked to my wife about this. I went to Japan, and I landed in Japan, and they said, "Hey, we need a volunteer." And I'm like, "No, I'm good. I'm good." And they're like, "All right, now, motherfucker, you're being voluntold. You're being voluntold. You're going to go to this personal growth retreat." And I'm like, "What? Like, are you freaking kidding me? I got Marines to lead. We got to do this. We got to do that. Like, I've already started like making connections. I'm not going to a personal growth retreat for a week." And I went to that personal growth retreat, and in that moment, it changed my life. And
Right.
just like you said, I'm sitting around the circle, right? Like literally singing Kumbaya, right? Crying with these people that I had never met, but we had similar stories. And I'm just like, wow, I've went to 3-4 duty stations, and I kind of just lucked up on this, but I've never felt like so clean before in my life, because I had all of that stuff, building up. And I feel like a lot of us that go through trauma, we have all of that stuff building up. And, you hear that motto, get her done. And that's all you hear is get it done. But we don't hear, hey, get it done when it comes to taking care of yourself. So
That is why we created the master guide. Honestly, I mean, Tony, that's the perfect like prelude to like the idea of, could there be more Jennifer Tracy's or Doc Springers? Like, sadly and encouragingly, we hear that too much. And so we created the master guide so that people can have us in their pocket. There's videos from each of us for each chapter. Hey, Abby.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Thank
Maureen.
you.
I'm sorry, guys. I've been slipping on these comments. I'm showing the comments all the time, but y'all, I'm
one
in
of
the
my other
zone.
favorite. One of my other favorite Maureen's. No, not supposed to have favorites. I just really like it.
It's okay to have favorites. Wait. We're supposed to be your favorites now.
Yeah.
Other favorites. I said other favorites.
Yeah, no,
anyway.
that really is why we created what we did. We have thought a lot about you guys in regard to how we put it together in short segments. So you log in, there's a video and an exercise, a video and an exercise. So if you feel like you've liked 55 minutes of Jennifer and Doc Springer, you will love the Master Guide. We could not have packaged it up any more for all of you.
Like pocket classes.
Like we've tested it. Like if you like us, put us in your pocket right there, So that's why we did it. And fun part is I do coaching. I can only take on so many, you guys, but a lot of the stuff that's in the master guide, including Doc Springer's, has been tested. So even though we're just pushing this out, this isn't like the first time it's been out there. This is curriculum. This is stuff that like people have been going through my own private coaching for 2 years now. And I've even opened up her stuff. So this isn't like just because we're pushing it out right now, it's new. It's like, no, I've tested this. I know if I can get you in there to listen to X, Y, and Z, you're going to walk away much more clear on the difference between guilt and shame. Thank you, Doc Springer. If I can get you to log in there and listen to Jennifer talk about suicidal ideation and depression, you're going to walk away with something much cleaner, right? And so I just got to get you to listen 4 or 5 minutes. And if that's not your nugget, go on to the next. Go on to the next until you find what it is that you need, because I guarantee there's something in there that you need. Absolutely.
You women are very powerful. And I can honestly tell you, Doc and Jennifer, we're talking from yourselves, but let me ask you this, right? Two-part question. How is your relationship with the women on the receiving end? When we're talking about from the veterans and the spousal, women communicate. They know how to express themselves. He's an ass. I love him. I'm going to kick his ass out. I don't want to talk to him. I locked him. He's sleeping on the couch today, whatever the case may be. And the last thing for you ladies, well, I'll probably leave it for Tony because he always asks that last question, is that for me, now that you're at a point in your life, what would you say to that younger version of Jennifer and Doc Springer back when you were 21? So, Doc, you go first.
Okay, so when does this end? Because I want to be respectful of time.
Don't worry about it.
Jennifer.
Keep on going.
Whenever you want to say, whenever you say, hey, I'm tapping out, we can go for 3 hours if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, because I don't want to cut her time short for sure.
Don't worry.
I threw our shared website up there, by the way. It's redefineyourmission.com. That would be an amazing one if you could share that out. So that's where people can find us. So, all right. So the first question, I'm going to get the order mixed up. You said, what would I tell myself if I was, back then? I think.
Let me rephrase it to it. So both of you powerful women, you know how to network with males and everything else. Now, from your side, Doc, we're talking with women. You constantly, women network naturally. They can they talk about dirty sex. I've heard it all. He does this, he does that. They talk about private stuff, and us guys are looking. We walk out. So it's to the point. I hate his ass. Tell him to pack his shit. Tell him to sleep in the car tonight, and then. Those kind of conversations when we're having a PTS moment, what do you see from the women? And the last part of that second part question would be, what would you say to the younger version of Doc Springer when she was in her early 20s versus today?
Okay, thanks for reminding me. Yes. So for the women, I would say the relationship that we hold with spouses, partners, and women that are loved ones to warriors is just as sacred a trust as the trust we hold with the first responders and warriors that we serve. And so I find that warriors often meet warrior wives that scare them a little bit, that have their own strength in a way. And they can get pretty heated. And a lot of times it's actually the women in the relationship that are the aggressors, actually, because often the men, let's say we take like any kind of a Marine or somebody like that who is maybe, afraid of his own rage, right? Doesn't know if he can protect his loved one from his own rage. So he gets locked up and she maybe comes at him. And the more he doesn't respond, she's going to keep poking at him and saying, I need a response from you. Because in a love relationship like that, when you don't respond and somebody needs a response from you, they will incite your anger just to get a response. Because otherwise, it feels like you're telling your partner, you're dead to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with you. And that's the worst feeling for a wife or for a spouse. So what I end up doing, I spent 10 years working specifically with relationships before I ever started working with warriors. And that was, from Jennifer showed my first book, Marriage for Equals. That included following 200 newlywed couples over 4 years of marriage, putting them in the lab and saying, what really bothers you about your partner? Now talk about that. And like watching them fight and thinking about how we navigate conflict. So I know I found myself in the role of kind of being that third person that can kind of be a bridge and help navigate conflict. And I know you've done the same in your coaching work, Jennifer.
Mhm.
So, you've got a lot of content around communication and forgiveness that you've written about in your book. And I know you do in your coaching work. And that's going to be some of like little pieces of that are going to be some of the free things that we're going to give out to people to kind of help them along the journey. So I would just say, yeah, that trust, if you hold it with the couple and you hold it with the wife as well as with, and the wife might be the conventional warrior in some relationships, but you hold it with both people and you're a friend of the marriage. That's what that sacred trust is about for me. The other thing is, I think if I went back and could talk to myself, I would just say, don't worry about it. Don't go to law school and don't worry about not going to law school. It's not a good fit for you. You had this really specific thing that was meant for you, and you'll figure it out. And all of those experiences you had of traveling to South America or being pulled out of bed by your dad who read the Great Santini and thought, that's how I'm going to raise my kids, and got us out on the track running miles in the dark when we were like 5 years old. It'll all make sense someday.
Mm.
And all those things are going to help you be a bridge between the warriors that serve us and protect us and bringing them all the way home from war, with how you're able to bridge between the civilian and the warrior spirit. So I think that's what I would tell myself.
Well, that's good. I'm going to be one of your patients here pretty soon. So I'm going to go straight to Jennifer. Jennifer, you got the floor. You've been very passionate. Let's go with what you're seeing. You're talking about your book. We're talking about networking with women when you're seeing PTSD, understanding with the male's perspective. We want to hear from you as far as when you're communicating with women, what do you see and how do you mentor them? And then at the end, let's talk about you at that point in your young, if you can go back and talk to Jennifer at that time in your life, what would you say to Jennifer then? Go ahead, Jennifer.
So when I think about men and women, you guys, one of my favorite authors, his name is John Eldredge, and he wrote this book called Wild at Heart. He's so pivotal in my life that he made it into my author bio. Okay. So what he says is that a man in his core being desires three things. That is a battle to fight, a beauty to fight for, and to be caught up in adventure. And when I read his book, I realized why I wanted my husband to fight for me, why my husband wanted to go off and be caught up in adventure. And me being the woman back then, 20 years ago, I was very codependent, didn't have this warrior spirit. I was more of a stay-at-home woman. And I was able to see in that book why I wanted my husband to be this particular way, because that was the man I wanted. Okay. So fast forward to all of a sudden me stepping into an arena where I never thought that I would even survive. Can you imagine? Like, I never even cussed back then, guys. And then when Brian was killed, I put on Kill Bill while my girls were at school. And I was like, rah! Because I was having to learn how to fight for them and myself and survive. Like, I had to learn how to become this warrior that I never thought I could become. So now when I work with men and women, I have to figure out, I have to help them stay in the core of who you are. Because see, there are some women who are born warriors. Like, I don't have to teach them those things that I was telling you. They're more of the, like, home front, and they're soft spoken, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But some women are like born like, right? Like, and so you have to evaluate for yourself who you are in that picture. You have to be honest and true with like who you are. No matter, like, here I am, right? Like, that's what's so fun about home. My husband now is my steady rock. He is not intimidated by the warrior side of Jennifer. He's not upset when I say, fuck that.
I love that.
When I say,
I love that.
do you know what we're doing tonight? It's Friday. When we get done, we're going to go sing karaoke. And do you know what I'm going to sing? I'm going to sing Evanescence, Bring Me to Life. And I'm going to rock that stage, you guys. And people seriously are like, why are you not singing? I'm like, do you know why I don't sing? Because, like, that's not my passion. Like, I don't want to sing for a living.
Right.
So that's my husband. He's not intimidated. He is steady. I walk into a room and he looks across the room and he knows what I'm probably talking about. Mental health, someone's wife, someone's suicide, right? And he's like, that's my wife. Like, it took me 42 years to find him, you guys. We just got married last December.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So it took me forever, and it took so much personal growth on Jennifer's part to work through codependency, to be a strong woman who could stand steady. And there's nothing wrong with either side of those. But you see how you have to come and evaluate that for yourself? So 20 years ago, what would Jennifer say? Oh, yeah, now you're going to make me cry.
Go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah. All I ever wanted to be was a good mom. That was it. And the voice of my demon out here in Florida, my girls live out in Colorado. The voice of my demon says, I have failed my children. It's still a haunting whisper. And I have to remind that voice after all these years. We've seen me share my whole story tonight, right? I have to remind that voice who I am, whose I am, what battles I've won, how far I've come, how differently it could look. And I have to find my center in that. Because I am not perfect, guys. I have had failed relationships, and that has affected the relationship that I have with my children. And that's the honest truth.
High five, baby. We've been there.
Okay? So that's Jennifer being real with you. What would I say 20 years ago? Jen, it's okay. Like, it's okay to not be a perfect mom. That's a tough one.
Wow.
Like,
well, that's why we reached out to you and Doc, because I really, really value how strong you women are. And I know you can say fuck that shit anytime you want. You can speak Marine, you can speak whatever you want.
I remember in one of my first conversations with you, Shauna.
Yeah. Uh-oh. What did I say?
No, I said, is it okay if I say F? And you were like, yeah, it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's so weird. I look at footage. Oh, my bad. I look at footage of me and Haram whenever we talk to anybody and they start dropping the F-bomb and how we both start smiling. I don't know what the fuck that's about. But,
yeah, they go like this. Oops. And we go like this. We're waiting.
Keep it going. Yeah.
15 minutes, you know?
Yeah. Oh man, this conversation, man, beautiful. I got one last question for you, and I think I know the answer. Both of you all starting with the good Doc. I don't like your nickname no more. We're not going to use that. Alligator killer.
Gator killer.
Gator killer.
Oh, please
We
no.
we gave the professor a good name.
You know, I'll tell you what though. The first time someone called me Devil Dog, I thought they were insulting me.
Oh, that was
I've
a
come a
Well,
long
good
way.
one.
you're part of the family. You're part of the clan. That's what that is. You know, you're the devil dog. Hey, come here. That's pretty much the clan.
How about we just go with warriors? You guys are fucking warriors. I
Yeah,
love it. I love that you're kicking ass in your own life, but you're helping other people figure out how to kick ass and figure out their shit to continue to kick ass. So the last question is, what's your legacy when it's all said and done? Doc and Jennifer, you guys are both gone. And we look down and we're talking about you. What do you want us to say? What do you want us to remember?
I want people to remember that facing off against their demons is the only way through it. And that if you show up with courage and strength by yourself, you've already lost. That the power of tribe is stronger than any power you can summon just as an army of one. And that if you figure that out and you turn to those you love and trust who are worthy of that love and trust, you can conquer anything. And I want to see people continue to get victory after victory after victory in their lives. That is the fun part for me. I have seen what warriors can do when I say, that's the hill, take it. And they go after it and they accomplish incredible things, to include people like Jennifer, who has a warrior spirit. See, I don't think the warrior spirit is about conventional combat operations. I think it's something much greater. I think it's about people who are willing to make sacrifices and do things other people can't or won't do in the service of values they hold sacred and the people they would die for in battle. Those are the people that they would also live for. And those are the things that will also motivate them to overcome incredible challenges and have a life worth living. So I want that to be my legacy, is bringing veterans, warriors, first responders to that place of growth, despite whatever adversity they face.
I like it, Doc. Just call it, say, hold my beer when I go kick somebody's ass. I like that. Go, Jennifer.
So mine, you guys, I have a concept. It's called lose the battle, win the war. And I feel like you have to be very, very clear on what your war is, always, at all times, especially if you struggle with post-traumatic stress, depression, or anxiety. You've got to be clear on what your war is. My war, for me, was at the end of my life, I want my daughters to look back and to say that on the day that their dad and sister died, that their mom didn't die too. That their mom didn't die emotionally, that she didn't kill herself, that she didn't turn to drugs or alcohol, that she showed up to family functions. Like, that's my why. So in this season, like empty nested, kids are grown, right? I have to remind myself of what my war is, how I can still show up in that way. And here's what's fun. They're older, 27 and 23. And so I have poured myself into work to the point where Doc Springer is like, why are you still up and working? I'm like, because I enjoy it. Like, I love the work I do. I love what I do. And so I'm trying to like redefine my new war. Does that make sense? That like it's actually okay to step out of being mom into this other arena.
Yeah, my boys back there, then my dogs are checking you out. They're just listening. They got their ears up when they listen to you. So you keep on going. You got a captivated crowd back there.
So, I mean, I've given myself permission to fight in a new arena and to show up. You know, it's weird when your kids grow up. It is. Like they don't need me in the same way. So I've had to give myself permission to pour myself into work. I'm like, I love this.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful, so beautiful. I'm so glad we connected. I'm pretty pumped, man. Haram picks the best guests. This is by far one of my favorites. I'm really appreciative of you two for sharing space with us. I'm at a loss for words. That rarely don't happen. I'm like over here. Oh man, I can't even think straight. Your stories are so impactful. Thank you.
So what I've learned from this, I've learned that two powerful women have taught me a lot about sensitivity. And they've taught me about breaking down the armor. I've learned that I can develop a great relationship with you two, and you guys can hold me accountable, and I won't get offended.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what
I know that I know you have a bigger mission like we do. So, if there is a bigger mission, then ego can be secondary. Now, I want to get things right. Like, it's okay to have some ego. Like, I care if I turn out sloppy stuff. That's ego. That's ego. But ego is not competing with other people who are good-willed people who are on mission. And you have to be able to confront each other respectfully and in love and say, hey, you just, I know you didn't mean to, but you just disrespected me a little bit. It hasn't happened with you and me, but it might. It might. And you might be the one to come to me and go, hey, you know what? I wrote that thing. And then you shared it without letting people know, hey, I wrote that thing. And I'll hear it from you because I know we serve a bigger mission.
Well, this is what we talk about when Tony and me, we were talking collaboratively, is creating a circle of influence, right? The circle of influence is so impactful because how many people now want to be around people like yourselves to be interact? What makes you ladies tick, and how is it that we brought you in and you've been able to have the platform and express yourself with no censorship, no ego, no male, testosterone went out the window. Both of us are just chilling out. We were just waiting for you to drop the F-bombs and gator killers and all that,
Well, and one thing that's fun before we go, you guys, seriously. So, Doc Springer's getting ready to head off to celebrate a 20-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Good stuff. Congratulations.
24 years with my husband and 20 years of marriage. But you're right. No, 20 years of marriage. We dated for 4 years, and I'll drop one more F-bomb if I could.
Yeah.
So this Marine writes my husband this note, and he says, thank you for letting your wife, Doc, come out on these reunions with us. So I told Doc, he must be one badass motherfucker to let you come out on this reunion with us 30 Marines all by herself. And so Doc says to me, he is a badass motherfucker, and I'm trustworthy. Ooh. And I thought that was so much fun that he wrote to my husband, and but sorry, Jennifer, please.
No, I'm congratulating you. Like, I'm sending you off. Like, that's.
Thank you.
Enjoy your time. It's well earned. We've put so much into this. And what we have in store, you guys, is we would like to, as we move out, redefine your mission, we wanted to gift the first 100 people into kind of a drawing, anyone who purchases it. We'd both like to give away signed copies, up to 10 of our books that we would ship out to people just as something.
Hold on, I got that book. Let me show this. Hold on.
Oh, I got mine too. I got my signed copy.
Hey, everybody got one but me, man. I feel kind of.
No, I got this book. Hold on, Smith. This is what I got.
Yep.
Right
yep.
Oh,
I got one better. Hold on.
Let's see, we're talking about Tony. You got to get this book from Doc. This was our first peace offering when we started interacting.
I listen to audiobooks, so I'll check it out on the audio
I'll
platform.
tell you, one of the most devastating things as an author. So I killed the first version and relaunched the second version.
Yes.
And I added a bunch of new material. I'm really excited about what I've added to this new expanded edition. And Amazon put it under a different ISBN, which meant that in one day I lost 67 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's devastating. And I can't get them back. They're like gone. Yeah. So I can't solicit reviews, but I'd love to see at some point.
Oh, here, wait. I can.
Maybe we can make a post around and get people to do that.
Book, please.
So what we can do is this, right? I remember doing this post about a year ago on this book specifically. When you met Scott Hustings too from Echo 24, Echo Romati, we were talking about that, and then that's pretty much. I said, "Hey Scott, you got to get this book." He says, cool. So, we're supporting him with, Save the Brave and everything else. And he's traveling. So what we can do is create a post here in your behalf, right? You have the copyright infringements. And then there's Jennifer with her book. So I can see us developing great relationships with Jennifer bringing it in yours, Doc, and let people say that, how is it that you've been able to build a community and leverage everybody, and there's no animosity? There's back animosity challenges, but there's self-respect, because we've all had our growing pains of how to identify challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we can do that. What do you think, ladies? That work for you?
Yeah,
That'd be great. There's no copyright infringement. I mean, there was a pirated copy around that, my first edition, but now that that's gone,
that shit, huh?
yeah, it actually said, it had a misspelling in the title of the book, and then it said print replica after it. I don't know who did that. Who knows? Probably someone in China, or whatever, But the second edition of the book is what I really want to get out now, and that's all that you can get on Amazon. So
yes,
thank you. I appreciate that.
I see it. Release date December 22nd, 2020. Is that it? The second edition?
No, it's May 2021. Should be on Amazon.
So see, you should see this like yellow second edition. That's what we want people to see.
All right, we'll make sure we tap into it. And I tell you what,
Yes.
I'm gonna use something so prestigious. I don't mess around when it comes to my my credits for my books. So I'm going to use one of my credits for your book, because I'm really, really interested in this. This is really good.
And once you do, you would be able to review it.
I want to introduce my wife.
Hi.
Oh, hello. Hi.
Hello.
My wife, Lorraine.
Hello.
Okay, so
Hi, Lorraine. Good to meet you.
So you can bring the boys up real quick. So
she's been
the backbone. She's that warrior, because she's half Apache and how you call it, Mexican. So let me get the kid here.
Hey, around, they got a stroller for that dog. It's so freaking cool. I seen it in the back. I'm like, is that a stroller?
He's living a good life. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So just like us guys, I got this to worry about on this side. That's why we do the podcast and everything else. And she's been the backbone. And like I told you, Doc, I've had issues. These two guys are certified PTSD service dogs when I was working in the VA. Yeah. I got it signed off. So just want to let you guys know. All right, guys, you got too much airtime. Get down.
Oh, man, I love it.
Oh, so cute.
All right, so Tony, you got it. Ladies, thank you. I want to appreciate this was a phenomenal platform.
And I'm just so glad that you got to join, Shauna.
Thank you for having me. I didn't want to crash your show, but we're gonna launch the giveaway stuff. Do we say August 10th?
Yeah.
When did we say we're gonna start that?
Yeah,
okay.
So
where do we go to? Will we go to the website to get it?
Yeah.
How are we gonna get that out? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so the master guide itself is up, guys. And if we have a huge show from this, I'll reach out to you and say, hey, we've already had enough. Let's just, do the drawing for the books or whatever. So we'll see how it goes. Okay.
So keep in mind, ladies, that around Tony and myself and some other people, we're going to be doing this 20th year of 9/11. We want you ladies to be part of this as guest speakers. We're going to be, we're thinking beyond, we having a vision how we're going to do this. And it's more or less something that's going to change the perspective of how we do things in LinkedIn Live, because so many people are just sharing posts, but we're looking to have powerful people like yourselves to speak on your behalf of what it is, and then correlation to how you can speak to the 20 years of 9/11. So just be mindful. We'll get Professor Mike on this too as well.
I think that'd be amazing. Thank you all for coming on. I really appreciate it. Will you guys hang out for a second? I know you got to get to karaoke.
Sure.
We should get a sample of that to karaoke to take.
I want to hear it. Actually, want to hear it.
Are you ready?
TikTok.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna do it for real? Oh, that's cool.
How can you see into my eyes like open doors, leading you down into my core, where I become so numb without a soul. My spirit's sleeping somewhere cold until you find there and lead it back home. And then Jeremy sings, "Pick me up." And we're like on stage and they're like looking at us two preppies and they're like,
They love it. They love it.
"Grow up, puppy." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, who are these two people?" That's it.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate you guys. Hang out for a second and we'll chat when we're done. Okay.
Okay.
All right, ladies. Thank you.
Hey, well, that was good, brother. That was good. I think we're going to sign out.
Yeah. Sign out. You signing out?
I thought you was going to do it. No, no, everybody. Thank you.
You want me to end it? I'll end it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Peace out. End the broadcast.